See, I told you last night, that's the manifestation of believing in operation, and that's what, when you see it through to the end, it produces signs and miracles and wonders. It produces energizings of miracles, instantaneous, powerful movements of God, and gifts of healing, grace in healings. I imagine in a crisis like that, there were multiple miracles happening spontaneously, going off like fireworks on a July 4th dark sky. Multiple instantaneous happenings miraculously, keeping God's people protected and those over whom they had responsibility, like Paul with all those on the ship. Look at his big heart, see. The practical conclusion to such revelation is, again, be of good cheer, thus establishing the commandment of the Lord. Paul believed God. It was by the manifestation of believing that he held fast to the revelation God gave him. See, that reminds me of the great Hebrews 11. By believing, it says faith in the King James, but it should always be believing. By believing Moses, by believing Noah, by believing Abraham. And when you see that as the manifestation of believing, that chapter really comes alive. And to operate the manifestation of believing, they needed revelation. Special, unique, specific revelations to carry out the mighty works they carried out. So when you read Hebrews 11, you cross out the word faith all through that chapter. It's believing. By believing Moses, by believing Noah, etc., by believing Gideon, Samson, etc., Noah. It's by the manifestation of believing. Every truth must fit in the framework of the what? You betcha, manifestations. So he held fast to the revelation God gave him. The rest of the men aboard the ship needed to carry out what Paul told them to do in order to have the deliverance. See, that means for them it's what you'd call regular renewed mind believing. A man of God utters what to him was initiated by a revelation. Now all you got to do is believe what you heard for the period of time that it covers. All revelation, well, I don't know about all, but most revelation will have a limitation to it. That's a good statement. It deals with that particular circumstance, seeing it through to the end of that day, or even farther than a day, period of time. And you'll know if you're disciplined in hitting the stopping point in tongues with interpretation, which many of us have disciplined ourselves to for years. That's how you discipline yourself to knowing when the revelation ends, not running off at the mouth with sense knowledge, extrapolations, and over-interpretations. You see people do that all the time. After a while, God's not even going to tell you anything if you don't have the discipline of a disciple to know when the guidance stopped. See, that's a good lesson. The rest of the men aboard the ship needed to carry out what Paul told them to do in order to have the deliverance, which they end up doing. Earlier, God's guidance to Paul was that there would be loss of life, Acts 27:10, and now the revelation was loss of only cargo. See, when I wrote this, that's the best I understood it. You remember this time when I went through it, I thought perhaps the indication earlier would have been a loss of their lives. They lost time, they lost health. If they hadn't have been in all that mess, they could have been about other things.